Are there specific areas of the peninsula where you know there's a real possibility of a fire breaking out? I would assume the canyons.
Absolutely. The canyons are obviously the highest fire danger areas. We've had a few fires on the back landslide area, the Portuguese Bend area. We've had a few fires there. But before we would ask for 100 feet of brush clearance. Now we've bumped it up to 200 feet because it's just the area fuels have gotten much drier and much more receptive to fire.
What have you often found is the most conducive thing, and that's probably not the right word, but the most conducive thing to starting fires here on the peninsula?
Well, actually, typically across the board, they're typically accidental. Usually, they're welders or someone using some kind of cutting wheel. Typically, they're accidental fires. Typically, the best thing to do is to keep an eye on the news and keep an eye out for especially red flag time or any type of high fire hazard times, to make sure that they're not doing anything like that. No outside open flames, no spark producing work. And if so, you have to be very, very, very aware that you may be starting a fire, so have hoses nearby and be able to extinguish them.
Having said that, how do you determine how many engines are needed at each fire?
Well, it all depends. We actually have a predetermined amount of engines for each type of incident. Actually, as small as a grass fire in the desert, a structure fire, a apartment fire, they all have different type of dispatch matrix. And obviously, the more life hazard, like apartment fire, we have additional engines and additional fire trucks that are on that response. For a house fire, we'll have less fire engines, but we still have a fire truck. We have the paramedic squad, battalion chief. We have a lot of resources coming to all types of fires.
I mean, I've noticed sometimes I've seen a couple of super scoopers here. What determines your use of them? And perhaps you'd explain to our viewers what a super scooper is.
Okay. Super scooper, they're from Quebec. We put them on. They're on contract. We get them typically towards the end of fire season. They're here. They're water dropping fixed wing aircraft, and what they do is, depending on the level of fire hazard, they'll actually automatically be on brush responses. So the minute someone reports a brush fire, someone calls on their cell phone, says, "I see smoke on the side of the road and it's in a brush area," they get responded. We have 3 helicopters that respond. One of them has what we call a hand crew. They're firefighters that go out and they don't use hose lines. All they use is tools. They have a chainsaw, a shovel, a McLeod, which is kind of like a rake and a scraper, and a McLeod or a Pulaski, which looks like an axe.
For someone who wants to become a firefighter, I'm sure that it's a very competitive process. What sort of things are you looking at in terms of qualifications, and how long does all that take?
Well, with LA County Fire, all we require is that you have a driver's license, high school diploma, and that you take what we call a CPAT. It's a physical ability test. You can go online, go to our website, and it'll tell you where to go and all the requirements that it takes. But we require actually one of the least amount of requirements. What we do is once you are hired, whether you've been a fireman for another department for 15 years or you're just out of high school, we send you through a fire academy. And what we do is we go through all the LA County Fire protocols. We'll go through hose lays, which is how you put the hose out, techniques. We go through ladder operations, breathing apparatus operations, and EMT. Everybody has to go through everything, no matter what your prior experience. So we can teach anybody how to be a fireman, but we can't teach a good attitude. So that's what we require.
So for someone who's watching, who's saying to themselves, "Gosh, I wish I could be a firefighter," what would you advise them to do?
Well, the first step to the process would be I'd recommend them to go to their local community college. You can do either El Camino College in the city of Torrance, or you can go to Harbor College, and you can enroll into the fire science program. What they'll do is they'll give you all the basic requirements to get started. You'll have to take emergency medical technician. They have building construction. They have many classes that you can take to get your associate's degree in fire science. That would be the first step. I'd also recommend throughout that process they'll learn many of the other steps, but they'll have to go through the fire academy. That's part of their program. The academy is either 10 weeks full-time, Monday through Friday, or 20 weeks part-time. Part-time is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening, every Saturday, and every other Sunday.
I think, Captain, you told me you've been a firefighter for 14 years. Having said that, What is the toughest part of your job?
Well, the toughest part of my job would be, I'd say, dealing with different personalities and coming up with solutions on the fly. You have to, and when we respond on emergencies, people are at their worst time. Typically, they're not at their best time. We do a lot of community service events, which those are all fun. But
People are at their worst?
yes, I would say at the worst moments in their life usually. They're either having a heart attack, they've been in a horrific accident, their house just burnt down. So people aren't acting rational typically. A lot of times they are, and that's appreciated, but it's understandable when they're not. It's very dynamic, and we understand emotions take over at times, and sometimes it's difficult to find out who you're dealing with and how to bring them to reality, or to calm them down, and to, you're dealing with dynamic situations all at the same time. You're running the fire, you're trying to deal with people, and sometimes that's a challenge, but it's actually what I like to do.
I only have two questions. When I was a kid growing up in England, you somehow always associated fire stations with firemen up above and then sliding down a pole, but I don't see any poles here. Is that something out of the history books that's long disappeared?
Absolutely not. We still have many fire stations that have fire poles. Some of them actually have gone to fire slides. We have different things for different areas.
What is a fire slide?
Well, it's just a big slide like you'd see at your local park, but it's there for the firemen to come down. It just, like I said, it depends when the station was built and what ideas they were having at that time.
Okay.
But we do have several fire stations that still have poles. It just depends on the size and type of construction at when they built it.
And the last question, Captain, is, since this is a travel show, what is your favorite getaway destination?
Well, I'd have to say probably Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah, Hawaii's fun. I've only been there a couple times, but it was one of my favorite, and I'd love to go back. I think in past it may have been down south, but I think Hawaii tops it now.
When you go on vacations like that, do you ever think to yourself, gosh, this would be a really difficult area to fight a fire in?
Well, I think like anybody else, when we go on vacation, you more so think of, wow, this would be a great place to live. And yes, it would be. It would be, like in Hawaii, there's a lot of wildland area, so you'd say. It's obviously a lot more moist than it is over here. But yeah, I think it would be fun. I think it would be dynamic. And I do think about that. I do think of different challenges you'd have. We here on the peninsula have many challenges. It's very diverse. We have our wildland area. We have over the side, meaning when people go over the cliffs or some cars go over, we have to go rappel over and pick them up. We have our regular emergencies, and we have to be prepared for all that. So it's very dynamic.
Captain, thank you very kindly. This is John Clayton at the Fire Station 106 in Palos Verdes, and the question now is, if you'd like to be a firefighter, you know where to go and what to do, and I hope that next time you watch a fire in Palos Verdes, you'll see these brave firefighters doing their job. I'm John Clayton.